this is where we're getting. And I just want to bring one more point as to how close we're getting to just nuclear war or accidental nuclear war. In this Guardian article, they kind of bury the lead because the subheading says a U.S. senator confirmed that the Ukraine has recently used U.S. weapons to strike inside Russia, which of course is really tempting fate with nuclear war. U.S. weapons given to Ukraine to fire inside Russia.
Can I just ask how this is different than previously when we were arming Ukraine and they were
firing at Russians that were in Ukraine?
Oh, I see. Okay.
But the headline, that's the subheading. So that's been confirmed by U.S. senators. The heading is Putin warns that Russia could supply arms to other countries to strike the West, to strike Europe or the U.S. Well, boy, wouldn't that sound like he'd be doing the exact same thing we've already done? Isn't it funny how there's ramifications when you do this insane shit? He's now saying he could, so for example, he could supply missiles to Cuba or some other country and have them fire them within the United States. Now, Cuba wouldn't do that, but I'm just giving an example. That's one thing that's going on. And here's another response from Russia to our insane proxy war shit we've been doing. Russia is sending combat vessels to the Caribbean to project global power, U.S. official says.
Project global. What does that even mean?
Because that's the propaganda version of what the United States calls it. Really, what they're doing is they're responding to the fact that we have put missiles in a former Soviet bloc country that's on their border and had that country fire them into Russia. And now Russia wants to show, hey, we're not going to sit here and just allow that. So they're coming up with a variety of responses. And one of them is sending combat vessels to the Caribbean. How does that make people feel? As obviously the Caribbean very close to the United States. But on top of that, Russia wasn't doing this until the U.S. created a proxy war on their border. And the U.S. has also bought up more of Ukraine than Russia has taken of Ukraine. So the U.S. now has stolen more of Ukraine than Russia has. These are the Russian responses, which are
so chill. Like,
so comparatively.
Here's the thing. Like, I hate that I have to say it like this as a caveat, but it's like, we can do multiple things at once. I don't like Putin. I think he's an asshole. I'm also very aware of how the US would respond if Russia was arming Mexico and they were firing Russian rockets into Texas. I mean, dude, how do you think the US would respond? And Russia's like, look, man, it's like the scene in a movie where there's like this drunk asshole who's just like pushing a guy at a bar and be like, come on, man, come on, let's fight. And the guy's like, look, man, I really don't want to fucking fight. I don't want to fight you. And then it always ends with that sober, calm guy killing the other drunk asshole because he just wouldn't shut the F up and sit down. I feel like right now we're in that scene in the movie and we're like, the other people at the bar should just try to back this guy off so he doesn't get shanked by the calm dude getting pushed by the drunk asshole. This is just such a chill response by Russia in comparison.
Yeah.
And I
know you all don't need to be reminded of how much this is starting to look like the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was in 1962.
Ooh, are we doing some government secrets right now?
Well, I like to refresh everybody's memory. I'm now the old guy on these, doing stuff like this. So that means the people viewing this, a lot of them are like 30. Like I'm an old dude.
Okay, so, you are not that much older than 30. You make it sound like you were alive in 1962. Like when I was watching. I didn't mean I
was alive there. I'm just saying there's a lot of young people who don't even know what the hell the Cuban Missile Crisis was.
There are a lot of old people who don't either.
Okay. Well, she just insulted you guys. Why don't you remember that? Anyway.
History education sucks balls throughout this country.
That's true.
Sorry, go ahead.
The Cuban Missile Crisis, October 1962, was a direct and dangerous confrontation between the U.S. and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It was the moment when the two superpowers came closest to nuclear conflict, which is a nice way of saying a nuclear winter in which we all die. The crisis was unique in a number of ways, featuring calculations and miscalculations, as well as direct and secret communications.
And miscommunications. I love the way that they're miscalculations and calculations, communication and miscommunication. Like, I feel like I'm in a I feel like I'm in a Robin Williams scene or something.
The reason we got out of it really was because we now know that JFK had back channels to Khrushchev, and the two of them were able to settle it between themselves, while the bureaucracy and the military-industrial complex, both of the United States and of the Soviet Union, were pushing more towards like brinksmanship, towards like, well, we can kill them before they kill us, and actually brought to JFK's desk, we now know, was a plan by the Joint Chiefs of Staff to that telling him they could win a first strike, and that we could strike Russia first, and we should do it now while they're not ready with nuclear weapons, and we'd win. And yeah, they would hit some of our big cities, but we'd win. And JFK said, how many people would die? And they said, roughly 10 to 12 million. And JFK stormed out of the office. And this is supposedly the moment he said, and we call ourselves the human race. Point is, this could have ended in nuclear annihilation if it weren't for the back channeling of JFK and Khrushchev. But this is where we're getting. And I just want to bring one more point as to how close we're getting to just nuclear war or accidental nuclear war. This happened like a year ago. So during the proxy war in Ukraine, tensions are high. And this is the BBC version of what happened, but it still shows it happened. They had to throw Rogue in there to try and make it seem more threatening. But a Russian pilot tried to shoot down and fired at a British spy aircraft.
RAF, that's the Royal Air Force.
Royal Air Force in 2022. But it was a British spy aircraft.
They also make it sound like this was in British airspace.
Yeah, no, I'm about to get to that. Yeah, no, absolutely not in British airspace. A Russian pilot tried to shoot down a Royal Air Force surveillance plane after believing he had permission to fire. The pilot fired 2 missiles, the first of which missed rather than malfunctioned as it was initially claimed. Russia had claimed the incident last September was caused by a technical malfunction, but the Ukraine's Ministry of Defense publicly accepted the Russian explanation. And now 3 senior Western defense sources with knowledge of the incident have told the BBC that Russian communications intercepted by the spy plane gave a different account. The spy plane, with a crew of up to 30, was flying a surveillance mission in the Black Sea. So they're basically on the border of Russia, although it's quote unquote international airspace. This Russian pilot thinks he has permission to shoot at people that are flying at a jet towards Russia. The intercepted communications show that one of the Russian pilots thought he had been given permission to target the British aircraft, following an ambiguous command from the ground station. However, the second Russian pilot did not, and he swore at his wingman when he fired the missile. But, you know,
what could possibly be ambiguous? Like,
well,
don't you just say like shoot or don't shoot?
I don't know what was ambiguous, but I like to point to the fact that, yeah, all air forces are like this, where they're not perfect. The kids flying the planes are like 20. Okay, there's a communications where it's like, you say fire. So the idea that we're going to send, we meaning the British, but the U.S. Empire, send spy planes to the border of Russia and not accidentally get shot down, which who knows what the ramifications of that would have been. It's insanity.
I mean, it's all dumb.
Insanity. It's just penis battles.
Yeah.
Penis size battles.